Good evening. Welcome to the December 1st, 2025 meeting of the Marshfield Planning Board. Time is now 7:02 p.m. Tonight's meeting is being recorded by MCTV, and we are holding a live remote meeting via Zoom. Our members present here tonight are Katie O'Donnell, Nick Papastratis, Fred Monaco, Kevin Cantwell, and I'm Mike Viviano, the chair. Also with us, Fred, you gotta mute yourself. Hear it coming through.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Also with us tonight is our associate member, Caleb Johnson, our town planner, Greg Guimont, and our assistant town planner, Karen Horn. At this time, I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the notice and open tonight's public meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, Greg, we'll go back to the agenda there.
The guys in the Drusopoulos brothers
Yeah.
are going in front of the planning board.
If you
So
are,
I just wanted to see.
if you're in this meeting, we can hear you. If you could mute
I don't know what
yourselves.
may be going on here.
Yeah, we can hear you speaking. If you could just mute yourself, please. Okay, let's see. All right, so we're going to start with some of the action items. We have the final release of surety for John Sherman Estates. And Greg, how much is left in there?
10,830 plus interest.
10,830 plus interest. Okay, any discussion from the board at all?
No, it's all set.
Yep.
Greg and Karen. Okay.
Yep, we're good.
None for me.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we release the surety back to John Sherman Estates in the amount of $10,830 plus interest. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. All right, thank you. I'm going to make a motion. Well, anyone have any issue with any of the minutes of 9:22, 10:06, or 11:03? All right, seeing none, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes of September 22nd, 25, October 6th, 25, and November 3rd, 25. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell.
Kevin, Nick,
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Fred, Fred, we didn't hear your vote if you voted.
Fred Monaco, aye.
Great, thank you. And Mike Viviano, aye. All right, so the time is now 7:06 p.m. and the agenda just came off the screen, so I can't read it.
Just a minute.
Did that to me on purpose, Greg. All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we waive the reading of the notice and open the special permit and site plan review for the Brant Rock Pavilion, 239 through 287 Ocean Street. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
thank you, and Mike Viviano, aye. All right, so everyone here, okay, so everyone that's here for the public for this, we are going to have a public comment section. Later in the meeting, we're going to get through the presentation. We're going to hear from the town planner. We'll have questions from the planning board members if there are any, and then we will get to some of the public comments. So who is here to present this?
Jonathan, do you want to lead things off here? Jonathan Silverstein, is he able to speak?
I'm sorry, can everyone hear me now?
We have you
Yes.
now, yes.
All right, connectivity issues. Members of the board, happy to be with you. Thanks for taking the time. My name's Jonathan Silverstein, and I am counsel for the applicant. I think most of the talking tonight is going to be from Rick and Patrick, but I'll kick things off just with a broad overview of the proposal, which I'm sure you all know is under the Brant Rock Overlay District zoning. We're before you for a special permit to allow a mixed-use project with 45 units totaling 81 bedrooms. So 45 small dwelling units primarily on the upper floors. I know there's an issue that we will need to address with respect to whether we're going to be proposing any dwelling units on the first floor, as well as the commercial space on the first floor. The total number of on-site parking spaces proposed is 200.
What? 200 parking spaces of Brant Rock.
So Steve Nickerson, if you could please mute yourself. We can hear
207,
you.
Jonathan.
207. I'm sorry, I heard that interference. 207 spaces, 102 of which are dedicated for the residences, and the remainder will be flex spaces and available both to commercial and residential. The combined property, which is 239 to 287 Ocean Street, is a bit over 121,000 square feet. We've requested zoning relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals as well, and that hearing is scheduled for next week. And I know that we received some comments as to whether some additional relief might be necessary, and we'll be looking at that and responding to that, as well as some peer review comments that we recently received. So that's the broad overview. I'm sure you're all familiar with the long-term attempts of my client to try to do something beneficial to the town with this property. We think this is a great project. And I'm sure over the coming hearing sessions, there will be a lot of questions and perhaps some modifications that the board will be looking for, but that's a general overview of the request. And with that, I'll hand it off first to Rick to walk you through the site plan.
All right. Thank you, Rick Grady from Grady Consulting. It's okay if I share my screen now?
We can see
There we
it.
go.
Right.
Great. As Jonathan had mentioned, this is for the properties in Brant Rock from 239 to 287 Ocean Street, located in the B4 Business District in the Brant Rock Village Overlay District there as well. It's hard to believe that it's been about 12 years since we were working on that with the previous owner and the planning board to establish that zoning district. Over that period of time, we've had a few tire kickers come in asking us about what could be done here with either single properties, or now that the Shopolises have gotten involved with a multitude of parcels here. The tire kickers unfortunately got a little bit scared away by the elevating idea to get this up out of the flood zone. This is located in a zone AE12, elevation 12. Existing grades by the street and on the property range from 5 to 8. So that potential depth of floodwater there is anywhere from 4 to 6 feet, depending on where you're standing on the property. The applicant's proposing to construct an elevated building here with parking on the ground level. So the ground level of the parking area would be at approximately elevation 6 to 7. What we're referring to is the FEMA platform, which is a combination of the mixed-use commercial space, boardwalks, all of the features elevated well above the flood zone would be our first level. Residential, there is a little bit of residential proposed with 9 one-bedroom units on that main level right now. The commercial space for this would be relocation of Venus, relocation of the Hop, and also some additional retail commercial space. Upper levels would be all residential. It's currently 9 one-bedrooms and excuse me, 36 two bedrooms proposed throughout the building. We are providing stairs, access, everything that we need for accessibility to the ground level. We would be reconstructing the 9-foot wide sidewalk along Ocean Street here to match the recent improvements done by the town. We're proposing basically a fire lane, I'll call it, 20-foot wide for access and fire protection around the full perimeter of the building. We are aware that the Conservation Commission has a 25-foot minimum setback, so we've honored that with our proposed 20-foot wide access road around there. The main building is shown in the golden color here. The FEMA platform that wraps around it is shown in the light brown or tan that we have in this area. As Jonathan mentioned, we're proposing 207 parking spaces. See if I can get to the correct sheet here. Here's a depiction of the buildings that would be coming down. See a number of existing buildings there that would be removed for the proposed construction. Here's a color-coded layout of the proposed parking. The blue represents the 102 dedicated parking spaces for the residential units, which equals 1.25 spaces per bedroom or 2.26 spaces per unit. Would be connecting to town water and town sewer, both available at this location. The drainage on this site is a little bit challenging. It's an area of high groundwater, so there's not a lot we can do to provide, say, a conventional detention basin or conventional infiltration basin. So what we're proposing here is we would like to connect the stormwater from both the access drive and the parking below the building into a series of catch basins and manholes. And then we're proposing a system called a storm trap. What the storm trap is it's a large concrete holding tank. Basically, one of the tanks has 6,657 cubic feet. The other one has 27,420 cubic feet. So all in all, it's about 250,000 gallons of storage capacity within those tanks. We've submitted a stormwater analysis. In that analysis, we calculate the peak rate of flow for the 2, the 10, 25, and 100-year storms. And what we'll do is we'll design a series of pumps that will discharge that runoff from those tanks into a rain garden for discharge offsite and some infiltration in a way that we will not exceed the pre-development rates of runoff for those design storms. So it's quite an elaborate system there to attenuate the stormwater. That storage capacity equates to about 4.3 inches of straight runoff without any consideration for what we're going to be matching on the rate of discharge. Let's see, our building square footage here is about 43,764 square feet, or about 36% of the lot area. When we take into consideration the boardwalk or the platform, that number goes up to 57,616 square feet, or 47.4%. Either case, we have a lower building coverage than the 60% maximum. Our open space is about 37% of the lot area, so we are in excess of the 20% minimum open space. We do have review letters from planning board staff and from Pat Brennan. We don't intend to address those one at a time tonight. I think it's more important to hear what the board has to say. So at this,
that bench has been sitting there the entire.
Thank you. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the project architects, Gary or Patrick, for their portion of the presentation, and we're looking forward to having a discussion and conversation with the board and receiving your comments so we can implement that into a series of revisions.
All right, thank you, Rick.
I'll stop my share.
All right, who was up next?
That would be me. Good evening. My name is Gary Lepori. Can everyone hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I am an architect and owner of a firm called LDL Studio, located in Providence, Rhode Island. We have been working with this client for a number of years and have had the opportunity to present earlier in the year to a neighbors meeting and so forth. And from that meeting, we took a lot of advice and suggestions. And this evening, we'd like to present to you our initial pass at where we are today with this project. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? I do apologize if I zoom in and out. I don't want to disrupt anyone or make people get dizzy, but it is a very large drawing, and I'm going to try to simply describe to you what we're looking at and then go through the program that's being presented this evening. What is on the screen right now is level 1, or the main level, which often is also referred to as the FEMA platform. If I go starting from drawing left to right, if I zoom in, you're going to see that the very first thing that we're showing on the far left of this platform is the relocated Venus 2 restaurant with an extended deck that wraps 3 sides of this building with the intention that they'll have glass curtain walls and sliding open doors to allow people to enter and exit onto outdoor seating for the Venus 2 restaurant, so that you will take advantage of views to Green Harbor, as well as to the front towards the Esplanade. Working my way across, you'll see a very grand staircase. One of the priorities that we have for this project is to match what we call a New England seaside vernacular, and I'll show that in a few minutes in our elevations, but the notion of grand staircases, as well as accompanying handicap accessible lifts and so forth, is paramount to the design. Some of the function that's moving towards the middle, obviously we will need a kitchen and back of house to support the restaurant, as well as toilet facilities and some functions like admin and entrances. In addition, we are also showing some building administration offices, as well as a building mechanical room. Am I going too fast? Okay. One of the things that's important to us is to try to break this mass down and make it appear to be much smaller and much more traditional to the idea of New England vernacular. So one of the concepts is we're going to actually have an opening or break apart the mass that have an arched opening that exits from the front along the Esplanade to the back, where we've introduced some exterior back seating on a deck that is behind what will now be the Hop relocated restaurant. So Venus 2 is all the way to the left. The Hop is going to be sitting in the back of this FEMA platform with views out towards Green Harbor. And again, they have associated program spaces to their needs, which includes a kitchen, back of house, toilet facilities, as well as some express takeout. So in the current marketplace, we see a lot of need for express locations where people can come, or Grubhub or other type of delivery services. With that in mind, with a Hop back here, and you have a large open access point from the front to the back, a large deck seating in the back with outdoor seating, perhaps umbrellas or sunscreens or so forth. And then in the front, we're proposing 3 commercial tenant spaces at various sizes, one it being 1900, another one being a little bit smaller, 1275. We're also proposing public toilets along that front concourse or boardwalk. So as people are making their way past perhaps an ice cream store or a sundries store or some sort of a tenant who's looking to occupy this space, we'll also have public toilet facilities that are available for pedestrians who are walking along the boardwalk. The last 2 spaces is an additional commercial tenant space. And then one of the amenities that we're proposing for this project for the tenants above is a fitness center. We see that there's a great demand for higher end amenities like fitness centers and so forth, and the access to the beaches and so forth. And so the last commercial space on this first FEMA platform would be a fitness center. You do see in our drawing that we're showing 9 single bedroom units. They have been part of our discussions with the client and with the Dropoulos family for needs. Perhaps one of the needs may be that employees who need a place to live within the community This might be something that helps with doing an employee benefit or a benefit to working with them, that may perhaps there's an apartment available or a single bedroom unit available to them. So basically we have, scanning out or doing a larger picture, you'll see the relocation of the 2 restaurants as needed. We all are familiar that the hop is literally on grade, so it does flood in any kind of a flood situation. So bringing it up to this FEMA platform is required, and it's one of the things that's the primary aspect of building this project, is to relocate the 2 restaurants, all of their supporting program, back of house, kitchen, and so forth. And then the addition of adding smaller tenant commercial spaces along the front that can take advantage of somebody who may be walking along up the staircase, walk along, perhaps an ice cream, perhaps getting something else, and then departing. As I move to the 2nd floor, you're going to notice that we've created 36 total 2-bedroom condominium units. However, what we have decided to do as part of the design strategy for this project is the condominium units are structured as a townhouse. So one compartment of the unit is on the 3rd floor. The 1st floor or the 2nd floor is the 2nd unit's main floor. So every single unit within this building will have a townhouse configuration. One of the advantages of doing that is we've located 18 entrances on the 2nd floor and 18 entrances on the 3rd floor. So the notion is, rather than having a corridor full of entrances or doorways, we've divided it up to have 18 entrances on the 2nd floor and 18 entrances on the 3rd floor, and splitting the design so that you could enter into your living spaces, go up or down a set of staircases to bedrooms, and so forth. One of the amenities that we'll show in a second is we're also trying to propose deck spaces along all of the units. So every unit will have a deck space associated to the living space. This helps us twofold. One, it gives the occupant or the tenant an outdoor space to dwell in. And the second thing, it's going to help us dramatically cut the mass of the facade down. And rather than doing a flat facade that just has punch windows, we're trying to create a vernacular that matches a typical seaside with decks and overhangs and so forth in that nature. As I'm moving down, you'll see amenities for the condominium area. Perhaps there's going to be laundry services for large laundry areas as well. All of you are probably familiar that the Venus 2 does have a 2nd floor function space in their existing location, and we're proposing to relocate that function space here on the 2nd floor with a roof wraparound deck as well, so that in the event of a wedding or a function that wanted to do a pre-function venue outside and then bring people in for service or for dinner service, they now have the advantage of wrapping a full deck around this facility so that they could pre-function outside. We also, in order to support that function space, have created a kitchen and back of house area that will support the function space, as well as bathrooms, a elevator core that connects the entire building from grade all the way up through here. And then basically that is the configuration for the 2nd floor. As I move up to the 3rd floor, almost a mirrored image of the 2nd floor, you'll see again that we've created this duplex townhouse configuration for our condominium units that allows each tenant to circulate up or down depending on where their entrance is, and they can make their way down 2 bedrooms or up 2 bedrooms. And here again, we've stacked deck spaces with large glass openings that allow from the living area, so somebody, a tenant or an occupant, can go out to their deck and enjoy the views to the Esplanade or views back to Green Harbor. At the 3rd floor, we're proposing to do a small rentable kind of sky bar space that'll have 180 views of Green Harbor, as well as the front ocean views and bay views. And this is another space that could be rented by some of the tenants in the building, or rented as another smaller function space for a retirement party or some sort of other smaller venue that does not want to rent the entire function space. In addition, this might be a place that programmatically in the long term, the family could look at how they would program or function that space as well. My final view that I would like to show to the board, as well as to those participating this evening, is our elevation from the Esplanade looking back at the building. We've worked very hard to try to create that New England vernacular, showing dormers and showing shingle style design with railings and punched openings for the tenants to live in. Another important feature is you'll see a colonnade along the facade on the first or FEMA platform. That colonnade is where those commercial spaces are set back 10 feet so that we have a covered walkway as well as the open walkway. So as people are making their way from the restaurants and perhaps they want to get an ice cream or they're going to their cars, they can walk along this colonnade in a very much a tradition like you would see at several of the high Victorian, as you would see in the tradition of a lot of these seaside hotels along the coast of Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, where they have these grand old Victorian hotels that have a continuous colonnade along their main serviceway. One of the important things that I'd also like to bring to the attention of the board and to everyone viewing is we worked very hard on the floor plan to not just give you a solid edge along the whole facade of the Esplanade. We're actually bringing that edge back as much as we can in certain places to break this volume down. So where we have on the facade, we might create a green wall, or we might introduce a lot of vegetation that could climb along this wall. This might be a perfect opportunity to put an old-fashioned wooden sign that talks about Brant Rock and the area. But the important thing is to show ideas of window boxes, greenery, pushing that facade back wherever we can, and allowing us to introduce much more of a pedestrian type scale to this project. As again, I mentioned, here's the entrances to the under the FEMA platform parking area. There's that grand staircase that leads up to the two restaurants. Here is that opened archway that will lead you all the way back to the back of the building. And then you can just see that we're working really hard to try to introduce flower boxes, greenery as much as possible. One of the questions is also about types of materials, looking at materials that are very much in part with that New England vernacular. And that is kind of the conclusion I have for you so far. I thank you for letting me present. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I believe there was one more presenter.
I believe that might be it. We were hoping to hand it over to the board, get some input. We certainly are not ignoring the comments from Greg and Pat, but we'd love to take as many comments as we can from the board tonight and take that back as homework along with what we already have to do a little bit more work and come back to you.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Greg, do you want to go over any of your comments? Or you want me to go to Pat Brennan?
Why don't we start with Pat?
All right, Pat, you're up.
All right, thank you, Mike. Pat Brennan, PGB Engineering. I reviewed the civil engineering aspects of the project for the board. Sent the comment letter in on November 19th. I'll just quickly go through my comments. I'm not going to go through them in a lot of detail, just mainly the more concerning issues. The first one is basically there's no details on the proposed foundations for the structure. The state building code as well as the zoning bylaw require structures in the flood hazard areas to be elevated on pilings or columns. This area of Brant Rock is also mapped as a barrier beach, and I believe that on a barrier beach, the construction needs to be on pilings. The proposed parking under the building is shown extending underneath that FEMA platform, the walkway around the perimeter, which without seeing any details on the foundation, I'm not exactly sure how that will work, because typically you're going to have some type of a foundation directly under your walls going up. And with the way that it's laid out, these walls would come down in the middle of some of these parking spaces. So if that's the case, again, getting some additional information on the foundation would help determine that, because right now it looks like to me that they could lose up to 77 parking spaces based on what they would need for pilings and piers underneath the building. The stormwater system, They didn't have any treatment provided, so they need to provide some treatment. I did hear in Rick's presentation that they're now potentially planning maybe a rain garden, so that would provide some treatment, but that's something that they need to do with the stormwater. The storm trap, large detention system that Rick mentioned, the details say that the systems are not watertight. The systems are going to be in the groundwater. So unless these pumps are running basically constantly, I don't know how these storm trap units will be empty enough to accept runoff from a rainfall event. That basically be full all the time. So that's something that we're going to need to look at or get a little more information on. And if they are watertight, they're going to need to provide some buoyancy calculations, because if they're sitting in the groundwater and they're empty, then they become a float. They could float. So there's some issues there with that system. The discharge of the water from those systems is by pumps, as Rick had mentioned. If that's what they're going to use, they're going to have to include the operation and maintenance of the pumps in the stormwater system operation and maintenance plan. There should also be alarms for those pumps, similar to an industrial wastewater holding tank or a Title V septic tank, so that when the pumps fail, people know that they failed and they can be repaired. I had some other comments related to the stormwater operation and maintenance plan and the HydroCAD model, which I won't go into much detail. The bylaw allows the residential uses on the second and third floors, but they do not allow them on the first floor. And as was mentioned, there's 9 one-bedroom residential units proposed on the first floor, which is not allowed. So I think they would need some additional relief from the ZBA for that, if that's going to be maintained. The bylaw also requires a 6-foot step back of the third floor from the lower 2 floors on the front and rear of the buildings. And it's tough to see. Well, actually, the floor plans do not show that there's any 6-foot step back. So that would either need to be another relief, or they're going to have to provide that step back. They're going to need to submit a landscape plan, and I just wanted some additional information. I think Mr. Lepori mentioned it in his presentation. There's no handicap ramps up to this platform, the FEMA platform. So it's all going to be by elevator for ADA, meeting ADA requirements. So that's the only way that you can meet that without doing ramps. I'm sure a ramp at this facility would need to be extremely long based on how high it's going to be off the ground. So I was just looking for a little more clarification on that, just to make sure that they will meet all of the ADA and Architectural Access Board requirements. That was it for my comments at this point. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Brought up lots of good points there. Appreciate it. Greg, we're going to go to you, just so the public knows too. This isn't the only meeting we're going to be having on this. There's going to be several meetings. So just so you know, if you don't get to talk tonight, you will have your chance as well. Also, there's a lot of outstanding zoning board issues. We're not the zoning board, and this applicant will be going to the zoning board for various other things. So when we get to the public comment section, we're not really going to be focusing in on any zoning board issues, because they're not our issues here on the planning board. That's for a whole different board to decide. So that being said, we're going to go to Greg Guimond, the town planner, for his comments, and then we'll go to the board.
Thank you, Michael. So on November 20th, the planning staff did a review and submitted that and supplied it to not only the board, the applicant, but put it online as well. There are 35 pieces of additional information that the planning staff would like to see. I'm just going to go through a few of them. What is the elevation of each floor, including the parking level? What is the height of the building? What is the surface of the parking area underneath the building? The front elevation of the building elevation appears to have a low wall going for almost the entire 570 feet. except for where the entrance and exit is for the parking. This is a barrier beach. My understanding is you cannot have walls in a barrier beach area because it will direct the water. So we need some more information on that. There is no mention of the required 10% affordable units. So we need to know whether or not you're providing them on site or you're doing the fee in lieu of payment. We need outdoor seating information for the Venus 2, the function room and the Sky Bar and the Hop, so we know the full impacts on trip generation. You have 2 shell spaces that on a previous plan were shown as units. So could we have some more information on what's going on with those 2-story shell spaces? There's also bonus rooms replacing what was bedrooms by removing a closet. So we need a little more explanation of these bonus rooms. We did not see an outdoor common area for the residents. That could perhaps be with some of that first floor that you had been putting residential units on, could be converted that the walls could open and you could have an outdoor space as well as indoor space for your residents. What is the outdoor lighting and how does it comply with the lighting bylaw? What is the sign compliance with the sign bylaw? And the need to display your adequate street loading and unloading area. Where is that going to be? We figured it should be near an elevator, so they're not lugging 2-wheelers full of food and beverages up a large flight of stairs. You had submitted 2 variances requests, but we have a feeling that there may be at least 5 more variance requests needed from the ZBA, depending on when we see additional information. That's it for me, Michael.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I'm going to go to the board members. Again, we're going to have several meetings on this, but is there any questions from the board, planning board right now?
I'm good right now.
Okay. I just had a couple of comments. You know, we're going to obviously need to see that pile plan. I think Pat pointed out a pretty good point that it could interfere with the number of parking spots proposed. So that's going to be a very important one. Obviously, everything Greg just said. The workout center, is that for the residents or is that for the public? Rick, do you know that answer?
I am unmuted. I do not. Gary, you,
It's the fitness area would be proposed for both.
For both, okay.
It could be, as part of your condominium, you have a fitness center to go down to work out in, or it could also be open to neighbors and residents.
Okay, I just know that the gyms, are high intensity parking, especially when everyone's trying to get there in the morning or in the afternoon. So not sure it's the best use, but just pointing that out. Are we showing elevated parking on this plan?
we are not. We're proposing all of the parking at ground level.
Okay, and that's something you're addressing through ZBA?
Correct. Yeah, it was
Okay.
our understanding that there was an attempt to remove that from the zoning bylaw that never went through. So we were
Okay, just
hopeful
so-
that would have been removed, but we're going to ZBA with that.
So just so the public knows, this current plan, there's no elevated parking, and that's up to the ZBA. That's not up to us here at this board. Currently, elevated parking is required. And then are these units being proposed as rental or ownership? You kept saying condos and then you're saying tenants, so I was just confused to what the proposal is for.
Sorry, I misspoke. They're condominiums.
So it'll be for sale units?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that answers all my immediate questions after hearing all the presentations. There'll be many more to come. Andrew, I see you on here. Did you want to say anything right now, or are you just going to wait for the ZBA?
No, thanks, Mike, Andrew Stewart, the building commissioner. Yeah, there were additional variances that I had pointed out in my review on the floodplain permit. Also some additional special permits, because this structure is in the inland wetlands district. And there were some other different ways that they could go about the parking and loading space issues. And then, yeah, the one variance thing that I did not put on my floodplain permit, but I noticed today, but Pat just mentioned it as well, was the 1305H, which is the 6-foot setback for the third floor of residential living.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
And we have our meeting, I think, for the ZBA coming up in a little next week, I believe. And so we'll be going all over this stuff as well at that meeting.
Okay, those are all on Zoom as well and in person?
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to go back to the board. Kate, sorry, Katie, do you have a question?
Yeah, like a question or a comment. I just wanted to echo all of the, concerns and items that Greg and Pat Brennan and Andrew Stewart all brought up. I guess I know that the applicant had said that they wanted to hear our thoughts and see what we think. And there's an awful lot to look at and think about here. And my biggest concern right now is why a project that requires so many variances and from our zoning bylaws, like what is the rationale for all of those things, for all of those changes being asked for? Because I have a concern anytime a variance is being requested of why couldn't a proposal that meets our bylaws be presented?
All right, I think they're addressing those to the ZBA. I don't want to really get into all those issues, but absolutely a valid point without question.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that just puts us in a tricky position as well to be considering a plan where there are so many questions that need to be addressed by the ZBA.
I will say that we do understand that a planning of this type of project is a process. So it's gathering information, making minor changes to things, and we appreciate the board's input, and we will be addressing all of the comments.
All right, thanks, Rick. Thank you, Katie. I'm going to, if I don't have anyone else from the board right now, I'm going to go to the public. There's a lot of people on here, so if you can hit the little button, which I just see, David Kelly is the first one I see. So David, name and address, and if you could, this is your time right now, please. David, I think you have two devices running at once.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Can you turn down yours a little bit, please? I'm sorry, we've got a second. I'm sorry, we've got a second version running, or we're just going to mute it.
Okay,
can you
go
hear
ahead.
me okay, Mr. Chairman?
We have you now. Yep, go ahead. Thank you.
Great, okay. My name is David Kelly. I live at 46 Ashburton Avenue, just up the road from the project. We've been following this really, really closely, and on a broad sense, we all know something needs to happen down here. But this is the biggest project probably ever in Brant Rock, not just now, but probably ever. And for a project of the size and scope, I can't help feeling that it's, I'm not going to say not necessarily well thought out, but it certainly isn't well presented. The plans that I spent the time looking at over the past few days are incomplete. And you can't review this without additional information on the plans. There's really very few dimensions. It's very difficult to understand what's being asked for precisely here. A lot of necessary information that you need and that the neighbors and abutters need isn't there, such as traffic studies, sewer capacity analysis, landscaping plans, street frontage improvements, building elevations from all sides. We see the front, it's a two-dimensional building elevation from the esplanade. What does it look like from the sides? What does it look like from the rear, which is visible from the Drybeck Road in the rear? And I think, Mr. Chair, it would really, really help us reviewing it and looking at it and providing input to the board to have some sort of 3D model, computer model, so that we can understand where the setbacks are relative to the facade, etc. It's difficult to understand. So having said all of that, both my wife, Lisa, and I generally support the redevelopment. Something needs to be done there. The sites are really a blight in town. They've been there a long time, and I think it happens that people just get used to it and maybe comfortable with it. But it is one of the most ugly places you could see, all of this property. We generally support the requested density. We understand that this board doesn't have the right to approve that. And Ms. O'Donnell asked a good question that I would hope will be answered at the zoning board as to why this is following the variance route for the additional units as opposed to alternate means such as town meeting. I see no problem from our position as to why, again, a zoning board issue. But again, you're looking at it, why we don't support the request for not having elevated parking. No one else is required to do it. It's a foolish addition that was added to the bylaw, in my opinion. So we would certainly support that. I see no reason to do it. It's a kind of a caveat emptor thing. So I would say generally support the project. I think there's a lot more information that we and you need.
David, we have I am interrupting you.
Yes.
I'm going to give everyone about 2 minutes if they need to talk.
That's fine. I'm going to finish up, Mr. Chair.
You're right around 2 minutes. And I didn't tell you that before.
Much. I've only got a couple of last comments. Again, there's a limited amount of information on the plan, so it's difficult to review. But for instance, the driveway widths in the garage, I think, are 16 feet. You can't get in and out of a parking space that's 9 by 18. There are comments from both Greg Gamond and Pat relative to columns in the garage and whether or not this parking garage and various other aspects could actually be built once it's thought fully through. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. I know we've got a long way to go on this thing, but
we do.
The overall opinion on our end is that we generally support it. We'd like to see redevelopment. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, lots of good points. Just so the public knows, I am going to try to limit everyone's comments to 2 minutes max. I did not tell that to David before he started. David, I think you had a great point, and maybe to the owners of this, some 3D models would be very helpful for the public. So maybe that can be worked on for future meetings. I think that really gives a great visualization for that. So if that could be part of the next meetings, that would be great. I'm going to go on next. Let's see. I have Scott Dixon, I saw was the next one up. Jack, I got you after that. So Scott Dixon, you're up, and 2 minutes, please.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Scott Dixon, 82 Ocean Street. I'm also the president of a local neighborhood association called the Original Brant Rock Village Association. And just a couple of points this evening. I concur with everything David just said. Also, on September 23rd, the association sent a letter to the planning board kind of offering our support for, at the time, the conceptual plan that the Drusopoulos family put forth. We very much would like to see the Esplanade redeveloped. It needs it badly. It no longer really represents the neighborhood that surrounds it. And this could be an exciting opportunity. We did say that we would not support any more than 38 units. That's what they came to our August meeting for the original Brant Rock Village Association and shared with us, and we stick to that. 38 units, we believe, is the maximum the development should have and what it can support. We do not support the 9 units, the 9 one-bedroom units that they're requesting on the first floor. That's an example of a variance that I think they should not apply for. It's not necessary. If they really need to accommodate some employees, which I understand is a real issue, they could take 2 or 3 of the 2-bedroom units and make them 1-bedroom units to accommodate that. That's pretty much my input. We're in support of the development as long as they meet those requirements. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I'm going to Jack McDonald's got his hand up. Yep, just name and address, please.
Hey, thank you very much. And I want to thank you, everybody, for the vision to improve Brent Rock. I go back to the days of
Yeah, can you just do your name and address for the public record?
I'm sorry, Plymouth Ave, 177 Plymouth Avenue. And I want to thank everybody for their vision in improving Brent Rock. I go back to the days of 1958 when we had a bowling alley and a movie theater. So I do appreciate the improvements being visioned. And even more importantly, I appreciate the opportunity for the public to give their input to what I think we all think is an important thing we need to do. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jack. I'm going to go to Mary Murphy. I see your hand up now. If you do your name and address to start, please.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mike. My name is Mary Murphy. I live at 252 Ocean Street in Brant Rock, directly across from the structure. The structure. And I want to thank Greg and Karen in the planning board because I went in last week to look at the plans. And I had mentioned to them a couple of things, and I was pretty vocal on social media. So if you're not on social media, I'm just going to explain it again. 2 comments that I had. One is when I look at these plans, I see a lot of people. I see a lot of more business, but I also think trash. I pick up a lot of trash in my neighborhood, Mike. So I'm just wondering, where is the trash going? Where are these dumpsters? How is this all going to work with trash? Like, is it going to go in one corner? It's obviously not going to go over by the new hop or by the new,
Mary, would you like Rick, the site engineer, to answer that?
yeah, that'd be great. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rick, do you have that proposed yet on the site plan?
We do. I can pull that up right now.
Okay, that'd be great. Legitimate question.
Yeah, actually, every question we've heard so far has been very legitimate, and we appreciate the input.
And here's the other thing, Rick, is like, I know you're probably coming back here probably 4 times. So you don't even have to show this to me right now because I was just curious it wasn't on the initial plan, which kind of goes back to, I think someone had mentioned, Rick Kelly or Mr. Kelly mentioned, we've seen so many plans now. We see a 90-unit plan, we see this plan, we see that plan. I feel bad for the owners. I mean, I can only imagine how much they're paying you just to even sit in this meeting, let alone put together all these various plans. So like them not knowing where the pylons, how it has to go up on wood pylons and they might lose 77 parking spots. That seems like really important information to me, like not to be coming to the meeting like this. I also question the order of the meetings and how this is going about. And I mentioned that to Greg and Karen, and they just mentioned that this is going to be one of many. So I get it. I totally get it. And maybe this is the way town government works with respect to, we put things in one board versus before hearing from another board. And I also wonder conservation. Like we all talk about zoning, but what about conservation? Like I just think of those folks as well. So I'm going to bring it back to my neighborhood and picking up trash. And I'm glad to see that there is a spot there. But I wonder how big is it and how large? And I also question.
Mary, you keep asking the same questions. I
Okay,
apologize,
and
but
here's the
Rick
other
wants
thing.
to answer it.
Okay, all right. I'm just mentioning he doesn't have to answer for me because he's not answering other people, and I know that I'm directly across from it. But
Rick, if you could answer it, it's a great question.
Yeah. Here's one of the dumpsters highlighted in this area here. We arranged it so that the trucks could come in the 20-foot wide access, have a straight ahead approach to a 10 by 20 dumpster pad here, and a second one coming along this way here to another 10 by 20 dumpster pad here. They were arranged in that location because it's a nice straight pickup coming off of the access driveway, so it makes it easy for emptying those dumpster units.
Rick, do we have some kind of calculation? I should ask Greg of, this is a huge project. How do we know the correct dumpster capacity?
Yeah, so really what it comes down to with the dumpster capacity, from what we've found, is frequency of emptying. So this is a standard size that we use on commercial developments. There's 2 of them proposed here. And then we have to schedule out the frequency of pickup, whether that's 2 or 3 times a week.
All right, thank you, Rick. Mary, I got you for about 30 more seconds for
No,
your
that's
time.
fine. And
Yep.
actually, Rick just led right into it. So, Rick, it kind of goes back to my whole thing about maintenance. Now we have public bathrooms being proposed. But when I went in and I talked to Greg and Karen last week, I'd mentioned that we saw a mattress and box spring that's been out sitting on that property for almost 5, 6 months now. And that's only a few folks that have been, few folks that live there. I think you had mentioned 9 apartments. I thought there maybe was only like 3 or 4 legal apartments, but whatever. There's not that many. Now we're going to have many more people with additional businesses. So I just question the maintenance and how is this going to be run? It's going to be a condo unit, but it's going to have restaurants attached. Like, I know we as owners, or I guess as a property owner sitting across the street, I just question, like, how is this all going to work and operate from a maintenance perspective? And I guess that kind of leads back into the trash. Is it once a day it's coming, getting picked up? And I guess maybe that all goes back into Rick, your analysis and how you manage it. I don't know. I don't know who does what.
Yeah, as we get further along in here, and we understand that what we've submitted here is probably a 60 to 70% complete design plan, and we want to incorporate comments, and the whole planning process is a building process. We're building this plan much in the same manner that they'll ultimately end up constructing the building someday. So as we zero in on the footprint here, now we're ready to pull in structural. They can tell us how many columns, spacing of the columns. We did some preliminary planning on that. We're hoping that's going to land on the lines of the parking spaces, basically. But we do understand that we still need to provide more detail on that to back that up for you.
Yeah, again, it's just the maintenance, like once you plan it, and I'm sure it's going to look great, but a few years later, when the paint's kind of peeling and maybe the bathroom isn't working, I just question
So I
who's
think
there.
the maintenance of the project with whoever owns it at the time, because it may not even be the owners that are here right now, that's on each individual owner of a property or project like this. And if it's going to be condos, it's going to be a condo association that's in there taking care of these things or hiring someone to take care of them. So that kind of wraps up the time with
Okay.
you,
Yeah,
Mary. So I
again,
get to other people.
and I guess that would just all should be thought of as a part of your decisions on the planning board, is like thinking about the trash, thinking about that condo structure and how that legal maintenance is set up. I don't know. Can you influence it? I don't even know. But these are just questions I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Kathleen, I can't see your last name because my phone's blocking it, but you have your hand up next. Name and address, if you could, please.
Yes, Kathleen Sidlauskas. It's 89 June Street in Marshfield, not particularly in the Brant Rock area, but a few streets back. So one of the questions I have is about the traffic. We see a lot of looking at the plan, and I'm kind of just looking from a novice, person, that there's one entrance in, one entrance out, all on the Esplanade. The traffic down there is heavy already. So we've lost spaces with the apron. And what is that traffic going to look like, not only in the off season, but in the on season? When we have tourists down here, we have people down here, they're coming to the beach. I live a few streets back. We have Brant Rock Market. So has any study been done on the traffic congestion? Not only again in the summertime, but off season, right? And the other question I had is,
Would you want it, Kathleen? Would you like an answer to that?
Yes, all right, so let's have an answer to that first.
Okay, Rick, have any trip generation studies been done?
We have not done any trip generation studies yet, but we'll be glad to provide that.
Okay,
Okay.
Kathleen, great
And
point,
then,
and they'll provide that.
yeah, and then no, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, so then the other issue, like we were talking with the water, the additional water consumption for all of these units. The filter treatment plant we have is pretty high on capacity right now. What is the plan to also adapt the filtration plant down here to filter this water, and I'm in layman terms here, but to filter it to make sure that this filtration system isn't overrunning now into our harbors and our water systems, the raw storage doesn't go out because all of these extra units and businesses, so Venus is there, some of the businesses are there, they're going to be expanded more. So kind of what does that look like? What is the plan to adapt the filtration treatment to consume and filter all this extra water to ensure it doesn't go into our local harbor here and marshes?
So Rick, you've been in touch or filed plans with wastewater in Marshfield?
We have not yet, but that is on the short list.
Okay, so that's unresolved to answer that question.
So we got two unresolved, right? No traffic study, no water filtration plant. Um, and I guess those are my two biggest things right now. And I guess as we find out more information, I guess I'll have more questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for commenting tonight. Okay, next is E. Murphy. I think that's Eric Murphy. I have your hand up, name and address, if you could, please. If you're there. E. Murphy.
Good evening, Eric Murphy here, 252 Ocean Street. I'm speaking as a private citizen. So, couple questions about the runoff tanks. They seem rather large, and I know by foundational supporting, it's going to be probably pilings. I don't know how you're going to put a piling on top of a empty water tank, if it's even empty. And then what happens if it is empty and we get a quick storm and a flood? These tanks probably going to float. They're going to float right up out of the ground with cars on top of them. And I mean, it just seems like it's the tanks and underneath the foundation seem like an issue to me. And that's all.
All right, thank you for the comments. I think Pat Brennan also brought those up and they will need to be addressed, so thank you. Anyone else from the public for tonight? Again, you'll have another chance to speak at the next meeting as well, as more information comes forward. All right, seeing none currently, anyone from the board, go back to them just for a minute here. Greg, what do we have for continuance date right now?
1/12/26. So January 12th.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions right now. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. Obviously, one of the most important projects in Marshfield happening right now, or since I've been on the board for the past 18 years, this is a big one. So thank you. Please continue to participate, and we will see you all on January 12th, 2026. So I'm going to make a motion that we continue this public hearing until January 12th, 2026 at 7:05. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Biviano, aye. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Greg, I'll let you bring the agenda back up.
Hold on one second.
Great.
Can you see
All
it?
right. Oh, yeah. So we got through most of it. Just, you have any board and board or staff report in the meanwhile? We can wrap it up after that.
I have no staff report tonight.
Okay. Anybody from the board have anything?
Nope.
Okay, great. Then thank you all for being here. Well, what's our next meeting date, Greg?
December 15th.
12, 15, 25. Okay, great. So, sounds good. I'm going to make a motion that we conclude tonight's public meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick?
Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Biviano, aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you in December 12th, 15th. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.